I don't know if you can hear me, but we seem to have a problem already. Good morning. Well, that's a bloody good start, isn't it? That doesn't bode well for a thing I'm going to be doing later in the show, so bear with me. Good morning, everyone. How the devil are you doing this fine day? It's good to be back. Well, I say that. It is good to be back. But the trip was fantastic. I will be telling you more about it if the video allows me to do so. Today is going to be completely unscripted, purely because it was a late return last night. Got up this morning, was piecing the show together, trying to answer a bunch of emails, and basically I've ended up with no time whatsoever. So we do have some stuff for you. The actual rundown on all the new Volvo equipment is a day or two away because we literally got back that late last night. We haven't even got the footage off the camera yet. So you'll have to bear with us on that. Let me go through the comments very, very quickly because I do need to get back to that. Let's have a look. 5:43 this morning. Crazy Edits, that's Peter McKenna, said, good morning. Is that early enough? It's plenty early enough. Way too early. I'm still in the land of Nod at that point. Dan Cullen is in the house. Morning, Dan. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Steve Williamson. I promise you, Steve, I'm not going to rub in how good the Volvo event was. But it really was. You'll be seeing that at some point over the next couple of days. Mark Whiting's here. Morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Peter McKenna, got his coffee, got his fags. And with Demolition news, I'm back on track. Well, we aim to please, sir. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Some good news from Mr. Hatcher, who has passed his test and he's back at work. Good man, Peter. Good man, Ken. Thank you very much indeed for letting us know, and congratulations once again. Mr. Muirhead is here as well. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, guys, and welcome back, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. It was, it was good. It really was. I've been there before, so I know kind of what to expect with Volvo. But this exceeded all expectations, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, I think there was probably 8-9 different new machines, whole new line of excavators. I know we've been talking about them being called the F Series. They're not the F Series. They are just the F generation or something like that. But you've got the EC400, EC500, and they are, oh boy, they are pretty damn good. Also, couple of new rigid dump trucks, the R60 and the R70. You're familiar with the R100 because we featured it here on the show in the past. I'll tell you how good the R60 was, shall I? We were filming it, and I was stood beside Fred, and he was flying a drone and filming with a camera at the same time, and he was so taken with the R60 that he forgot the drone was in its path, and at the last minute took evasive action. He basically had to choose between clattering his drone into the front grille of a Volvo 60-ton dump truck or hit a nearby tree. He went with the tree, which I think was a sensible option. Thankfully, both drone and dump trucks, I think the dump truck would have been okay, to be perfectly honest. But yes, it was really, really good. And I've written about it. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let me show you where you can find this. If you have a look in the chat now, I actually wrote on the plane last night, coming home, an article called Innovation Unlimited, which kind of takes you, I don't feature any of the equipment, it's just telling you exactly what went on while I was over in Eskilstuna. And the machine demonstration or the display at the very beginning of the event, mind-blowingly good. Now, and I say that, and I've said this in the article, I've sat through JCB's Dancing Diggers. I've seen Caterpillar's Big Push in Malaga a number of times. Always impressive. But this, oh lordy, this was good. And whoever chose the soundtrack, who wouldn't want to see dump trucks running on only half their wheels with AC/DC Thunderstruck playing in the background? It really was an absolutely fantastic event. Peter McKenna says, we can hear you. And Gary Muirhead, I can hear you as well. No mention of Volvo. Yeah, there's going to be a few mentions of Volvo. I will tell you now, I'm not doing it today because I didn't have time, basically. Can you see that? I don't think you'll be able to see the logo because it's very, very subtle. That is a Volvo water bottle. There's the Volvo logo right there. Volvo water bottle, fetched all the way back from their HQ over in Eskilstuna, and I can assure you, untouched by human lips or mine. Completely untouched. It's completely new, never been opened, never been filled. That's going to be a giveaway for tomorrow, and I will tell you exactly how to do that. Yes, I'll do that over the course of tomorrow. Peter McKenna, can't see you on Facebook. Yeah, we had a hitch. Had a hitch at the very beginning, and unfortunately, the video that I'm planning to end the show on is going to play off my hard drive, and I know we've had issues with that part in the past. So keep your fingers crossed. Good morning to Jim Turner, who's here as well. Looks like Nick Drew enjoyed his birthday. Yeah, there was an event which, if I can get the video to play a bit later in the show, you'll be able to hear. There was an event at the Monktel Museum, which is it traces the history of the companies that led to the formation of Volvo Construction Equipment. And there was a big old shindig there. And somebody along the lines had tipped the wink to Volvo that a certain Mr. Drew was celebrating his birthday. I can't imagine who that might have been, but he was. And yes, they got him up on stage. He gave it traditional thumbs up, and he got a nice model to go with it. So yes, I think he had a fantastic time. Steve Williamson said, "Did you see the new duck?" Saw the new duck, saw the new electric duck. Did an interview with a guy on the electric duck. So yes, I mean, just to be clear, there was a couple of electric compact loaders. Let me think. I'm just trying to play it through in my head. A couple of new rigid trucks, whole new family of excavators, and they also hinted a new ADT. And that was, if there was one downside, and this is entirely our fault, not Volvo's fault, there was one downside. It was that basically we were given free rein. Go and film what you wanted. So we did the rigid trucks, we did the excavators, did the dark and everything else. We were going to do the ADT, and we ran out of time. We had to get on a coach and get back to the airport. So we didn't cover the ADT, although the ADT will not be available yet anyway. So it was kind of a prototype, so not the end of the world. But yeah, they absolutely crammed the thing with new innovation. And you can read all about it. And if Footy is here, and he is, I've just spotted him, what are the steps like to get in and out? I have to say, getting in and out the R60 and getting in and out the EC500, not a problem. Not a problem. Even with my weary old knees, I manage that no problem whatsoever. Not that I'm a great judge, because my knees are fully functioning, but it was very, very good. Just going back to Footy, though, I've written an article, and when you can see the link there, it's called Innovation Unlimited. It resides over on LinkedIn. If you have a look at that, Footy, and I'm looking at you specifically, if you have a look at that, you will see there is a tab there that says read the immersive version or something like that. If you do that, it'll play it for you as an audio. It's fantastic. Great to hear you had a great time. Yeah, as I say, it's one of those, but it was one of those that you think it's going to be good. And then just when you think that's really good, it gets even better. Yeah. Let's have a look. Sounds like you had a good time. You certainly did. Better than the show I do, Mark. Different. I'm not trying to butter you up, and I'm not trying to walk a tightrope here. What you do, Steve, is very, very good, and it is very, very focused. This, I reckon, in the course of the best part of an hour of demonstration, 50 machines? 60? I mean, at one point they had, I think there were 6 excavators, 3 or 4 ADTs and a couple of rigid trucks, all operating in perfect synchronicity at the same time. So a very, very different display to yours, but it really, and yeah, the music does make the difference. Should I tell you this, right? So I was stood at the front of the grandstand, camera in front of me, GoPro down below me. I had Fred to one side, I had Al Grierson over to my left, and despite the fact that I had the entire audience, Volvo people, press, content creators, all behind me, I found myself tapping my feet. I was enjoying the music that much. Cooler than the Gang, AC/DC. Even Diana Ross, who I don't like, even that got me tapping my feet. Wash the dirty clothes, pack the bag, and off again. Speaking of dirty clothes, and I'm not angling for Volvo to pay my dry cleaning bill. So as part of the display, they had some electric machines go through. They had some electric on-highway trucks. They had the mini excavators and the compact loaders and all manner of stuff. It was just machines going in all directions. And suddenly, out of right field, completely unannounced and completely unexpected, one of their team's rally cross cars came through and sprayed me and everybody else in grit. All over the camera lens, all over my trousers. Well worth it. Worth every penny. It's absolutely fantastic. Let's have a look. Steve says, not a fan of how the ADT looks. Prefer the ones they have now. You kind of need to see it up close, I think. And I would tell you as well, the rigids, I mean, I'm a fan of the R100 anyway. I've taken that for a spin in the past. But the R60 and the R70 just look... You know when you were a kid and you had Tonka toys? Imagine somebody said, take your Tonka toy and make it massive. That's exactly what and I mean that in the best possible way. Dan Collins had a good day, operated the best of British JCB. Good stuff. Peter McKenna is winding up Steve Williamson with Ovlov. Ovlov, never thought about it being Ovlov. Now, I am going to start the show in just a second. I am very worried about the final bit that we've got for you today, because it is a walk and talk, but it's on my hard drive and it may or may not play. I may have to do something drastic with it, but bear with me on all of that. But there is something else. Today's show is going to be unscripted. I've got a list of the things I want to do, but I've not got a script, and I've been thinking about not changing the format, but changing the way in which we do this show. I think the show itself has become so skewed now that we spend more time chatting amongst ourselves than we do worrying about the content. That I did it the entire duration of Intermat, and I'm doing it today. I may do the entire thing in future unscripted. That's change number one. But change number two, one of the other things that we would just, I mean, I've spent a lot of time with Fred over the last, I spent a lot of time with Fred anyway, but spent a lot of time traveling with him over the past couple of days. And one of the things that he was saying was, given the fact that you've got an audience and stuff, why don't you do more? And I personally, I think I do enough, but he suggested I do more. And one of the things that he suggested, which I have to say, I do think is a very, very good idea. The first part of the show, traditionally, and I know I've been talking now for 15 minutes, but traditionally, the way we do the show is we start with all the visual stuff. So we start with the videos from, the Volvos and the Caterpillars and the Liebherrs of this world. And then we have a chat. And then we all go our separate ways. I'm thinking, and I want to get your take on this, I'm thinking about doing exactly the same. So unscripted, all the visuals up front. So we do all of the fancy schmancy video production and everything else during the beginning. We then switch over into the Craic exactly as we do now. And then at some point around about 11:30 on a weekday, we will call a halt to the chat, and I will then switch to almost a different show. It'll be part of the same, but almost a different show, in which I then go over to Construction News, Building Magazine, Construction Inquirer, Construction Index, and bring you the day's news. I will be putting it on screen, but I'll also be talking about it. So the final part of the show, which may be 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, will be almost entirely audio. So even if you've got to go back to work, if you haven't had enough of my dulcet tones by that point, you could go back to work and you could actually have me playing in the background, bringing you the day's news. If that's something you think you can get behind, please let me know. If you think that sounds like an absolute disaster waiting to happen, let me know that as well. I'd love to hear from you as well. Steve says it used to be the Craic at the end of the show through the whole live. I personally preferred seeing all the content first, chat at the end. That is that is one of the things I want to get back to. This bit, I mean, like 16 and a half minutes we've been going now. What I want to do is get into the thing very, very quickly. So those of you that have only got a limited amount of time, maybe a 10-minute, 15-minute, half-hour break, I'll deliver all the fancy schmancy. Here's a video, here's a video, here's a video. We'll have a chat, and then I'll draw a line in the sand, and we'll go over to doing something else. That's the plan, and I'm still working on it in the background, but that is the plan. Sounds spot on, but Vernon K may not like it. Vernon K can go whistle. The videos seem to have gotten lost and the chat has taken over. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I'm not absolutely bothered about that. The video content was basically to get you here, and then we would have a chat. Well, now I think we've got enough people that just come here regardless. I mean, I said to somebody the other day, I mean, I could literally turn up on a Monday morning or whatever and just say, it's no videos today, let's have a chat. And nobody would have a major issue with that. But I've decided what we'll do, we'll get into the show really quick. Bang, bang, bang. Here's video, here's a video, here's a video. Let's go over and have a chat, call a halt to that, and then we'll do the day's news. That's the idea. Dan Cullen says, now that's a great way to do it. Do it 2 days, Tuesday, Thursday, so you get enough news built up. There's enough news going on there. Not a problem at all. I love seeing new things you post, unusual things at tech. That will be front and center. Gary Muirhead says, I remember how the show used to start from the very first episode, beginning with the industry. Yeah, it is. But as I say, let me clarify in my head, because we were talking about this literally on the plane last night, trying to thrash it out. I will clarify in my mind. I will drop a line in the WhatsApp group to let you know exactly what it is that we're trying to do, and we will try to do it. And listen, the good thing about this show is it is entirely flexible. I'm going to run it up the flagpole, and if you'll say, no, sod that, don't need that in my life, we'll revert. Not a problem at all. Now, without further ado, I'm going to post. I'm going to roll the intro. Actually, I'm going to post the question of the day and get this show on the road. I'm just going to throw this up very quickly. Dan Cullen says, I like that idea. Very interesting. Good. This is why I think this is an idea to play with, okay? So Steve says, I love seeing the new things you post, unusual things and tech. And then Jim Turner says, the debate and interaction is what makes this show so good. So if I can make this work, if I'm relatively rigid with what I do, if Steve wants to arrive, or if anybody else wants to arrive, just watch the videos. Haven't got time for the conversation, haven't got time for the industry news, you will know that you can arrive at 10:05, see the videos, and then you can bugger off and go about your day. If you're like a Jim Turner and you decide, actually, I don't need to see the latest video of a Volvo machine, I'm quite happy to join in the discussion, though, you could turn up at 10:30 and join in the chat. If you are only interested in the industry news, you could turn up at 11:15, 11:30 and just get that. So it will almost be like a regular TV schedule. This at this time, this at that time, that at that time. That's kind of the idea I've got in mind. What about Saturday socials, says Dan Cullen. The Saturday socials, we are going to switch those to monthly. Well, we've already kind of done it. Second Saturday of every month. Second Saturday social, if you get my meaning. Or a 9:50 a.m. start, a meet and greet, and the show start at 10 a.m. That was where I started, but I know I don't have the discipline. I'd rather start with a hard start and go on longer than try and have a bit of a chat and think, oh, bloody hell, I was planning to speak for 10 minutes and I'm now half an hour in, which will throw us out. We've already getting some answers through on our question of the day. I'll come back to it. But it is Thursday, the 30th of May. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the walrus of demolition. In today's show, Volvo enters the detection business. I said I wasn't bringing you any of our video footage from Volvo. This is one of theirs, so you can see that a bit later on. Magni telehandlers unveil a telescopic handler remote control system, and we've got some John Deere dozers in action, which is always good stuff. Plus, I'm hoping I can get it to play. If not, I may have to do something a bit more creative. We've got our latest walk and talk film, and I've actually managed to film one overseas in Eskilstuna in Sweden. And the question that we're asking is, could equipment owners and operators be better used in machine development? And I know this is a question that's very close to Jim Turner's heart, but I think it's pretty close to the heart of most of you. So stick around for that. I'm going to hope and pray that we can get the damn thing to work. I may even have to reboot the stream to get the damn thing to work. If not, I'll have to play it for you tomorrow, but we'll see what we can do. But despite the fact that I got back late and despite the fact that I'm still half asleep, we did manage to come up with a mystery machine for you today. Excuse me. Here we go. This is, we'll do the mystery machine right after this. Yes, mystery machine for today, which may or may not, no clues, may or may not have been inspired by my trip to Volvo. I'm not saying it was. I'm just saying it may have been. So, mystery machine looks like that. Yeah, that's what you've got to work with today, people. If you've got any thoughts or notions on that, let me give you a clue. Despite all that I've just said, I'm telling you now, it ain't a Volvo. It ain't a Volvo of any persuasion whatsoever. It is not a Volvo. Don't even bother going down that path because you'll be beating the wrong path. Steve Williamson already wins the answer to the question of the day. Well done, Steve. I will come back to it in just a moment. So, yes, that's a mystery machine you've got to work with. While you're trying to figure that out, let me roll the question of the day for you. Yeah. Now, today's question of the day, just to make a nice change and giving Gary a day off, actually comes out of the dark recesses of my brain, and it was literally triggered this morning. My question is this: do you have a daily or a morning ritual, something you do so regularly you don't even think about it? It's just completely automatic. Every morning, I make myself and Mrs. Demolition News, Morning Ruth, make us a cup of coffee. I generally have mine in a blue cup. To prove it, there it is. She generally has hers in a green cup. Even though they're different colours, and even though she takes her coffee black and I take mine white, and the cups are actually different sizes, I always place her cup on the left while I'm making it. I don't know when I started doing it. I don't know why I started doing it. But now I literally get a couple of cups out of the cupboard, put them down, and then switch them to make sure that hers is on the left and mine's on the right. What about you? Do you have any morning rituals or day rituals that you do just completely subconsciously? You just get up and you do that thing. And I don't mean going off to the loo. We all do that. But if you've got anything that you do almost without thinking about it, I'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the chat, and we will come back to it at the end of the show. I'm going to go back to the chat. Have we had any comments on... there's no pulling the wool over Dan Cullen's eyes. He says, is it a Zettelmeyer? Oh, that's a damn good start. Let's have a look. Here we are. I'll tell you now, Dan, you're absolutely on the money, but I'm looking for not just make, I'm looking for model. I'm looking for the model, but that is a fantastic answer. All fantastic stuff. Dan Cullen, I will come back to all the questions of the day answered. He writes in a diary. The Dan Cullen Diaries. I bet that makes for interesting reading. Always regret not having done that. I do a fair bit of it now. I since my switch back to all things analog. Nope, as Fred puts it, when I'm writing Victorian style, I do quite like putting pen to paper, I have to say. But yeah, wish I'd done it before. As I say, Dan Cullen is on the right path with Zettelmeyer, but I do need a specific model. We will come back to that right after. Well, we'll do that at the end of the show, actually, unless somebody gets it before. But let's start with a news, shall we? Well, that's game over then. Game over. Dan Cullen immediately spotted it was a Zettelmeyer. Steve Williamson follows up with precisely the model number I was looking for. That's what you had to work with. I showed you a part of a wheel and I showed you a part of a cab roof, and we've already got a correct answer. And it is... There's what it looks like in all its glory, and there's the correct answer. Steve Williamson. Boom, as they say, Zettelmeyer, ZL 4001. That is precisely what is written on my little scrap of paper in front of me. Fantastic. Well done, well done, Dan, for spotting that it was a Zettelmeyer. And I was prompted to do that. That wasn't, I didn't take that shot. When we went to the Monktown Museum, and again, I'm hoping and praying that our video works at the end of the show, there was a Zettelmeyer, a very, very old, 60, 70-year-old Zettelmeyer outside, and I thought, oh, Zettelmeyer, that might fool them. Turns out I didn't know. I didn't know the audience well enough. What? That was a random one, I said. Apparently, random works. Sorry for that. No need to apologise, Steve. You've got the right answer. I don't have to worry about that now. Bearing in mind today is unscripted. That's one less thing I need to worry about. I can just crack on with the show. So we've done that. We've mentioned the news. So Volvo. So we will be bringing you all of the footage of all of the machines that we filmed and drove and interacted with while we were over in Sweden over the coming days and weeks. I promise you that is going to be the case. Got back too late last night. But Volvo, at the same time as introducing a lot of hardware, they also introduced a lot of software and smart solutions and everything else. And one of them was the thing I'm about to show you right now. So take a look at this.
Volvo Smart View with obstacle detection lets you focus on work while it keeps an eye on the surroundings. It gives operators an enhanced real-time view of their surroundings. Thanks to cameras and the radar detection system, you will have 360 degrees view. It identifies obstacles as either an object or a human being, and alerts the operator. Set how far you want the radar to reach. Customize which sectors you would like to see. Volvo Smart View with obstacle detection offers perfect control of your surroundings for a safer site.
I saw that in person. Very good. The bird's eye view camera that's on the EC400, the 500 as well, absolutely fantastic. One of the things that I've written about this morning, which, as I say, you can read over on LinkedIn, the link is in the chat. In fact, just to make sure that you do get it, you can have a look at the chat there. One of the things that really struck me, and bearing in mind I'm off to see Bobcat not this time next week, but Monday, Tuesday next week. The same thing with them. I came away obviously impressed by the R60, the R70, the new excavators, all the things. But we're now living in an age where the likes of Volvo and Bobcat, and I'm thinking of them specifically, but other manufacturers as well, they are as much a tech company as they are a metal bashing industry. They or a metal bashing company. When you think about, if you put out an excavator, here's an excavator, We know roughly where the bucket goes. We know where the counterweight goes. We know roughly where the tracks go and the slew ring and the cab and everything else. All of that is kind of an incremental improvement. But the amount of tech that is crammed into that for things like safety, for things like productivity, it just blows your mind. Read the article. You'll get a bit of that. You'll get a flavour of that. But when you look at some of the partnerships, I mean, when you think about Bobcat has done a partnership with LG to do that OLED screen. Volvo are in partnership with Samsung on a system on one of their machines. We've got equipment manufacturers now that are basically playing on the world stage with some of the biggest and best known names in the entire world. It really is a very, very changed landscape. A really changed landscape. And I find it very, very exciting. Talking to one of the Volvo excavator specialists, that notion of being able to configure a machine to suit your own needs. So, to suit the attachment or the application or whatever it might be. The amount of control that is now in that just kind of blows my mind. One of the examples the guy gave was if you're using an excavator, one of these new series excavators, in a deep excavation application, you can configure it to make the boom lower and the boom raise super fast, but make the slew or the swing steady. So you're still matching, your machine performance to fuel consumption and everything else. But the bit where you need the speed to get down in the hole and get back out of the hole, you can prioritize that and get. Or alternatively, if you're in a job where you're loading, you can do the actual loading itself in effectively eco mode, but then from that point to over to the truck. Super fast. Just mind-blowing. The big screens they have on stands at the shows are incredible. The brightness and the detail. Yeah, they listen. In fairness, on this occasion, Volvo didn't really use so much of that. They did in their theatre thing. They did everything live. But yeah, some of those, and certainly, I mean, the Liebherr stand at Balmer, mind-blowing. The advancements are great, but consumers need more options as not everybody wants a teched up machine. No, that's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. But when you think about, I mean, the new series of Volvo excavators is going to be like a phased introduction, and I don't think the first ones are likely to be rolling out of the factory much before the autumn of this year. If you think about that, I mean, those F-Series, that's not what they're calling, but those F-Series machines are probably going to be the mainstay of Volvo's excavator offering for 5 years, maybe, thereabouts, give or take, 5 or 6 years. There is a whole generation of new operators coming in for whom tech is the norm. These are futuristic machines built for operators looking to the future. Not sure how well all of the tech will sit with veterans of the industry and those that prefer the stripped down feel and everything else. But, bearing in mind, the generational shift, I do think, as I say, I mean, I'm still buzzing I'm probably not even being entirely objective at this point. I'm still buzzing from the Volvo event. It was that good and the equipment was that good. But see it yourself. Go and see it yourself. I would imagine some of the new products may well be at Hillhead. They couldn't confirm nor deny whether Volvo are going to be at Balmer. I hope that they are. But if you can get to see some of this equipment yourself, trust me, you will be absolutely blown away. They described it as their most ambitious launch to date. Can't argue with that. And just one other thing, and this is in the article as well, but I will mention it very, very quickly. On the face of it, the timing of that event was quite strange. You get the impression, and this often happens, in the run-up to a Balmer year or the run-up to a ConExpo year, you do get the impression that a lot of manufacturers sit on their hands and don't don't launch too much because they want the big razzmatazz at Balmer when the world is watching. Volvo just went, never mind that. We've got plenty. We've got innovation coming out of our paws right here. Here's a bunch. There's more to come. And that's exactly what they did. And I am going to say good morning to Garvin over at Mostly Diggers in a second, and I'll explain the confusion with my friend Garvin in just a second. But one other thing, and I've mentioned this in the article, again, you can read it. When we go to product launches as journalists, content creators, influencers, call us what you like, toe rags in general, we are generally treated a bit like fragile cattle. So they present, here's death by PowerPoint, and here's a thing, now move over here, and here's another thing, and then move over here, here's another thing. Not Volvo. Volvo showed us the stuff. They gave us some PowerPoint stuff where they were talking about their ambitions and their hopes and their aspirations and everything else. And then they basically went, here's everything. Enjoy yourselves. See you for lunch. And that's the way they did it. Volvo, I hope others learn from your example. Mick Norton's here. Mick Norton, good morning, Mick. I will come back to Garvin in a second. Mick, take a look at demolitionnews.com this morning. There is now guidance on the use of scaffolding in the demolition industry. Namby-pamby, tiptoey, non-committal, but there is guidance. Jim Turner says if Volvo are a hillhead, there'll probably be some blue sign writing on some of it. Now, Mostly Diggers, Garvin. So we arrived in dribs and drabs. I say we. I was there. Obviously, Fred was there. Al Grierson came in from Luxembourg. Nick Drew came in from Nick Drew land, but there was French and Italian and Norwegians and people from, I think there was a couple of Brazilians there, a couple of Americans. It was a big do. We got to the dinner at the Monktel Museum, and I'm sat there, I'm looking around thinking, I can't see Garvin. I wonder if his flight was delayed. So I sent him a message, are you here? And he came back and said, no, I'm not there till Thursday and Friday. You're in for a treat, Garvin, my friend. It really is brilliant. And he says they all operate as high-level problem solvers and developers, whether it's putting physical products together or developing, implementing technology systems, manufacturing infrastructure. He's talking about equipment manufacturers, obviously. So yes, lots of stuff to show you and to talk about. We will be coming back to that. But I do need to press on because unscripted, I need to get myself on track. So let's have a look at this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
So, remote control. There was a bit of remote control on display over at Volvo. Very good it was too. Very smart indeed. Volvo aren't alone. Magni, the Italian manufacturer of very, very good telescopic handlers. They've got in on the Remote Control Act as well. And this is what it looks like. I thought that was an interesting comment from Steve there. Can see total sense on this, especially for blind lifts. I promise you this is not supposed to be the Volvo show, but it's fresh in my mind, so bear with me. I spoke to a guy who was responsible for, he's a product specialist on the new electric duck. The electric duck is equipped with, or it can be equipped with steel wrist, but it's electric, wheeled excavator and everything else. So now we did the whole thing about it's something we discussed actually before I went. When you talk about electric cars, there is this thing called range anxiety. In other words, how far can my car get me? Will it get me home on a single charge and stuff like that? Which is different to construction equipment, because construction is more duration anxiety. Will it last a full working day and so on down the line? Steve's just said that that Magni remote control system makes perfect sense. Of all the machines, to my mind, that could and probably should be electric powered, isn't the duck the one? And I realise it travels on road, and I realise that if you're using your electric charge to take it from place to place, that means you've got less working hours. I fully understand that. But surely a rubber duck properly used is probably the most urban machine there possibly can be. It is designed to pop up the road and operate in a certain range and do its work and then go back to. As I say, I'm impressed with everything that Volvo showed, but of all of them, an electric duck just makes sense to me. An urban machine that is not just designed to work in an urban environment, but is designed to not disturb an urban environment. Surely that's a good idea, right? Or is that just me? Was I secretly given the Volvo injection? I don't know. I don't think it was the case, but let me know. But another discussion point. We'll carry on. Let me take Steve off the screen very, very quickly because I need to do this. Turns out I'm not a complete lunatic. Well, I was going to say I'm not a complete lunatic. Some may argue with that, but Jim Turner says there should be more radio-controlled machines on site with auto memory, driving function too. Yes, I agree. Literally, I think it may have been Friday last week before I went off on my travels. We were talking about precisely that. If you want to make accidents a thing of the past, if you want to literally draw a line in the sand and say, after this point, we will have no on-site accidents, there is one very, very, very easy solution. Take men and women off the site. Just move them away. Stick them outside the perimeter and get them to operate remote control. Stick them in a base station a mile, 20 miles, 100 miles down the road and get them to operate via a simulator. Or go fully autonomous. That is the way you eliminate accidents. All the time that people are there, even using Footy's fancy ladder, all the time you've got people climbing in and out of machines and operating machines and moving machines, accidents will continue to happen. If you want to stop it, get them the hell out of there. Steve says 100%. You're used more as a crane or forklift on a duck on site, odd foundations and other bits and bobs. You never do much hard digging or bog shifting with a duck. You do, but how much? Not as much as tracked. That's my opinion. And the telematics prove that. Much the same as you guys, I have exactly the same default questions. When somebody says this thing is electric, it's immediately, how long does it take to charge? How long will it operate on a full charge? How long does... all of these things. So I hit the guy with that. And he literally went, it's a duck. It's not a hard digging machine. It does a bit and it does something else. It does a bit, it does something. That is precisely the point. And again, I go back to that point. If anything should be electric, to my mind, the duck's the thing. Who wouldn't want an electric duck in their life? Mick Norton says our Magni remote roto telehandler innovative. However, anticipation of lateral longitudinal instability, not sitting comfortably with myself. There's nothing better than the operator in the seat with his sphincter giving him a warning. Yes, the sphincter warning. Tried and tested for generations. It's a fair point. It is a fair point. But I think horses for courses. Okay, so with something like that, I mean, obviously, if you're going to operate a machine and actually perform a lift with a remote control, you want to make sure that that machine is set. So what is to stop you actually getting the machine on station with man in machine, at which point, or man or woman, hops out, goes to somewhere where they have complete visibility, not partial, but complete visibility, switch to the remote control, do the lift, and then hop back in the machine. That's how you do it properly, I reckon. Steve says, yep. I don't know what he's saying yep to, but I'm going to agree with him because, I generally do. Let's have a bit of this, shall we? As I said, unscripted today, so I'm not going to mess about with this one. I've got some John Deere dozers in action. What's not to love? Just improves your morning, doesn't it? Really does. Somebody just said something in the chat. Here we are. Mick Norton says, I followed up our electric excavator insurance costs queries. Spoke to 3 brokers, none of which satisfactorily answered my queries. A very big question mark hangs over premiums for hirers and owners. There was a lot of discussion about electric machines. That point actually didn't come up. There was a lot of discussion. One of the things that I'm trying to remember the guy's name. It's Melke Yenberg. He is the head of Volvo Construction Equipment, and he hosted the only formal part of the presentation. And he was talking about what he referred to as the S-curve of innovation. And the S-curve of innovation, for anybody that's unfamiliar with it, imagine a chart. And innovation tends to do this. It's quite hard, and then it starts to take off, and then it gets a bit easier, and then it takes off. So that's the S-curve of innovation. A couple of things. He said that Volvo's electric machines accounted for about 1.5% of all the machines sold in 2023. 1.5. They are aiming for 30% in the next couple of years, so they are completely committed. He reiterated, bearing in mind they have a foot in both camps anyway, he reiterated that he doesn't believe that the future will be a choice between, it won't be an either hydrogen or electric, it will be more likely a combination of the two. But one of the things that really stood out for me was that Volvo seemed to have come at the electric. I'm not even going to call it a problem because it kind of spoils what I'm about to say. Some manufacturers looked at a decarbonisation, zero emissions, and saw it as a problem or an obstacle to overcome. Volvo, almost uniquely, in my opinion, looked at it and went, that gives us a chance to really show what we can do. And they absolutely have. When you think about the arguments over, yes, but electric machines, they're all well and good, but really only for compact. And then along comes Volvo, 20-ton class excavator, 20-ton class wheel loader, all electric powered. They're changing the way that things are done. And I think the reason I'm mentioning this now is I know Mick has mentioned this thing about insurance. Obviously, there's there's concerns over that. There's concerns over the lifetime of the battery, what happens to the battery afterwards, finite resources, and all of these things. But I think the industry and individuals, because we're also talking about electric vehicles and everything else here, I think we too are on that S-curve. I think we're going through the tough uphill. Everything seems to be a problem to be overcome. But I think we will get to a point where all of a sudden everyone just goes, it's a thing. It's a thing. Electric is a thing. We will buy into this. And at the point that happens, I really do think that Volvo are going to be in prime position. I really do. Steve says, the word John Deere just reminds me of when I was a young boy. He also says, I think they will get to 30%. Just the pure fact when it all goes electric, there's going to be a place to get. They are going to be the place to get a good electric machine. Yeah. They are. They're going through teething problems. Is an overstatement because Volvo are far too smart for teething problems. But when you think, if you think we've had diesel for a century, we've had electric for 5 or 6 years. So we're at the very, very beginning of the switch. Even then, I think Volvo are leading that curve, and I think they are going. I think they are deliberately going through the pain now because it will ultimately pay off. And one of the other things as well, I didn't get to spend any time. As I said, we ran out of time. But when you look at what the likes of Volvo are doing and Bobcat are doing the same and Liebherr are doing the same, because they've taken a broader perspective on all things electric, it's allowed them to do other things. And one of the things that it's allowed them to do is to devise their own charging solutions. So you buy an electric machine, but you can also have, your fast charger or your overnight charger and everything else. All of that infrastructure is now available for sale. That's giving them more new products to show off and to back their machines with. That is what it has done. And I'm a believer. I do believe that electric is part of the way forward. And I keep coming back to this. And I did speak to several of the Volvo people. And they agreed that my take on this is not a million miles away. One of the issues that we have is that we've got this promise of hydrogen-fueled machines on the horizon. And I think it's taken the industry's eye off the ball. We don't have to worry about zero emissions because hydrogen will save us all. But we don't know if it will. We don't know how it will. We don't know how much it will cost. We don't know how to move it from one place to another. We don't know how to store it. We don't know the cost of the machine. We don't know the cost of the fuel. It's a promise that we know nothing about, and it's way, 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 way over on the horizon. Or, alternatively, if you decide, actually, I think the time has come to go zero emissions, either on this site or on this application, buy an electric. Simple as. That's my take on all of this. Let's have a look. We'll come back to the questions of the day. Mick Norton, if the Volvo of this world really mean to sell an electric equipment to the masses, they must be able to answer questions on insurance and resale values. At present, Volvo and others cannot answer what the customer needs to know, leaving journalists to their own devices rather than face up to real concerns does them little favours. Okay, so here's the thing. One of the last conversations I had as I was literally walking out of the door, I was speaking to one of the senior guys, Bill Law, over at Volvo, and he said, if there's anything else you need, give us a call. They always say that. Hope you enjoyed yourself. They always say that. But the one other thing he said, if you would like me or one of my colleagues to come on the Breakfast Show to talk about all of this new equipment or to talk about anything around it, we will do it. So I personally, I don't think it's appropriate to do it as a morning show because I would like to really, I'd like to pick their brains, but I think you would like to pick their brains. So we've got a couple of evening shows coming up. We've got one coming up with Mike Keogh. I think that's the 12th of June, looking behind the scenes of an explosive demolition. The week after that, we've got Gilles Ronnet coming back to talk about all the latest demolition equipment from Caterpillar. But I think after that, I can't remember how the dates work out. 26, I think I'll be at Hillhead. So possibly the week after that or a bit later on, I will get Bill or one of his colleagues on an evening show. And Mick, you can put those questions to him yourself and we will get an answer. I promise you. But again, that is another area where I think Volvo differentiate themselves. Ask. We will speak to you. We'll speak to your audience. Ask. So I will give them the opportunity, and you will be able to ask them yourselves. Garvin over on Mostly Digger says, when ULEZ type regulation is adopted more across different cities, it will eventually be pushed into machinery companies operating in those areas. Already happening. Yeah, you've already got to meet emissions regulations in places like London, and if we can get it past London, then Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, Newcastle are sure to follow. You won't have a choice. You won't have a choice, which is slightly odd. That's one of the things that I do find quite mysterious. And I do realise that the equipment rental companies are notoriously conservative. But if you were a hire company looking to differentiate yourself operating in London, would you not have a fleet of electric mini excavators by now? You would be the go-to guy for the zero emission zone equipment. Would that not make sense? Or am I missing something? I take on board all that Mick has said there. I do understand the objections and the issues that go with it. But yeah, Mick says, Mark, I would look forward to an online debate with any manufacturer. That is what we're planning to do. As I say, the Mike Keogh one is going to be slightly less of a debate. But Gilles Ronnet, if you've got specific questions about all things demolition equipment and demolition attachments related to Caterpillar, you can ask him. And we will get Bill or one of his colleagues on an evening show so you can do exactly the same with Volvo and any other equipment manufacturers out there. If you want to come on and speak direct to any of our audience, and if you're brave enough to put your head above the parapet and get them to ask you questions unscripted, unplanned, and unrehearsed, feel free. Speaking of such things, and I'm hoping and praying that this works, because I got up not that early, but I got up early this morning to basically put this together. I don't know if it's going to work. I'll be absolutely honest with you. I don't know if it's going to work, but I will do my best. I'll be back after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Now, if you were here at the very beginning of the show, you'll know that I had some audio issues. Last time I had those audio issues, it prevented me from playing a video off my hard drive, which is a bloody nuisance. So I'm going to try and play it. If it does prevent it, what I'll do, I'll upload it somewhere else and I'll bring it in a different way and we'll have a chat about something else. But let me start by trying to play this for you. If it plays, it will be self-explanatory. If not, I'll have to do something a bit more creative. So bear with me for 1 second.
You're going to manage to get the first ever walk and talk from an overseas location in this site. Having failed while I was in Bergamo, I'm now in Eskilstuna in Sweden. As you can see, glorious day. In fact, this shirt is way too hot. I've just spotted a statue just along the way featuring blacksmiths, banging metal basically, perfectly in keeping with what I was planned for today's discussion. So, let's have a look around. It's the afternoon on the first day of my trip, 2-day trip, to Eskilstuna in Sweden. Weather is unbelievably glorious. We left a fairly dull and drab UK a couple of hours ago, but we're now here in Sweden and it's glorious. I mean, actually hot. I'm going to spin the camera around in just a second because I wanted to show you very quickly. You type.
I don't know if you got it at your end, but that failed at my end. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going I'm going to upload it elsewhere, and we'll come back to that in just a moment. Let me just get that rolling now. Sorry, just bear with me. I'm going to get this up so we can do it in a different way. I assume everybody can still hear me. I can't tell. If somebody can give me a thumbs up or something, that would be handy. Make sure that the whole feed hasn't gone down as a result of that minor incident. Anybody? Is there anybody out there? I'm starting to wonder if there is anybody out there. Somebody say something for the love of all that's holy. Am I? There we are. Lou, thank you very much indeed. I'm glad to see that it's all okay. Yes, that video is uploading elsewhere. It is uploading elsewhere. And I will play that. I'll bring it in. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Okay, I'll keep sticking with it. Norwegian Earth Moves, Martin. Good morning, Martin. Just popped over on Instagram. I'm just waiting for that to upload in the background. It's going to take a couple of minutes. Yeah, it's going to take a few minutes, so I'll stick with where we are. So yes, all things looking ahead. Given the fact we've got some additional people here now, just wanted to give you a very quick update on the plans for this show going forward. I'm looking to change things up a bit, hopefully to make your life and maybe my life a little bit easier. And the point that I was making, and I explained this at the very top of the show, if you were here, apologies for repeating myself. The idea I've got in mind is, because we've got an audience, because we've got a platform and everything else, to start to transition, rather than just being a show, to be a channel, a bit like a TV channel. So you turn on ITV and you watch, I don't know what's on ITV during the morning, but you watch a show, there's some adverts, you watch another show, there's some adverts, and you watch another show. That's how TV works. This show doesn't work like that. But my plan is that it may do, if we can get agreement from you guys, because basically what I'm planning to do is we'll do the key bit, the videos and all the new kit and everything else. We'll do that at the top of the show. So probably from about 10:05 till about 10:20 of a morning. That will be the focus. We'll then have the chat, which may last for another 40 minutes or so. So that will take us from 10 right the way around to 11:15, something like that. At which point we play a thing, and it then becomes an industry news show. And I'm talking about industry news in terms of both construction and demolition. So if there is, as of this morning, there is now new guidance on the use of scaffolding in a demolition environment, we would focus on that. If there are, insolvencies, site accidents, whatever it might be, we will do all of that in that part of the show. And I've literally, while I've been talking during the show, I've even been thinking even further about that. When you think about how an evening news show works, it's like, here's a headline, here's the details, here's a headline, here's the details. But now we're going to focus on this part of the news. And going back to something that Dan Cullen said earlier in the show, this idea of saving the news up. I don't think we need to do that. But what I may do is actually we'll have like the quick fire. Here's a headline. Here's something that's happening. We'll discuss it for 5 minutes and then move on to the next topic. But once a show, or once every other show, or once a week, or whatever it might be, we will have almost like a feature. So we'll take a look at a specific thing that's happening in the industry, and hopefully that will. We'll see. Dan Cullen says, I can hear you, and he's here. Good news. Now, as that video completed uploading, it's not far off, actually. So I should be able to bring that to you fairly soon, I would think. Yes, still counting down. Very quickly, I'm going to remind you where to find that. That is my I don't do this. I never do this because it is like a bit like showing somebody your holiday slides at a dinner party. I never talk about the actual events that I attend because why would I? Why would you be interested in what I did for 2 days? But on this occasion, I wanted you to get an understanding of exactly what it was we'd been kind of exposed to over the past 48 hours or thereabouts. So you can find that over there. Now, is this going to work, I wonder? Let me see if it's going to play. It's now processing. Why is nothing ever straightforward with these things? I tell you what I'll do. I tell you what I'll do. I'm going to end the show. I'm going to roll the outro and do the gazelle-like leaping and everything else. I'll start to go through the chat, and as soon as that video is ready to play, I'll bring it to you. How about that? So yes, I'm going to roll the outro. Blah de blah. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. And I hope to see you again very soon. If you do have the time and the inclination, however, I will be back with the Craic and hopefully this other video immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Now, I'm not going to dare to play the music in the background because I know for a fact that will fail. So we're in complete silence. I'm going to go right the way back to the very beginning of today's chat, which started while I was still fast asleep, actually. There is Peter McKenna saying, "Morning all, is this early enough, Mark?" It's plenty early enough. I realise this has become a thing, but you really don't need to be doing this. You really don't need to be doing this. I know you're loyal, but you don't need to get up early just for me, I promise. Morning all, again, he says, hope you had a good time, Mark. We all miss you. Thank you very much indeed. I missed you guys. It feels so strange to actually 10 o'clock rolls around and it's, oh no, I can't. I mean, at 10 o'clock yesterday morning, I was being showered with grit from a rallycross car, and I was quite happy about it as well. Very quick reminder, that video is still uploading. This will be up for grabs tomorrow, and I realise the light is not allowing you to see the Volvo logo particularly well, but just to give you an idea, quality item. Yes, it is aluminium, I would guess. It is going to be available tomorrow. We'll be giving that away to one lucky winner, so tune in for that if you want to get your hands on a water bottle. Who else do we have here? Dan Cullen is here as well. Steve Williamson is here. Mark Whiting is here. That's the way to start your day. Got my coffee, got my fags. Demolition news. I'm back on track. Congratulations again to Ken Hatcher, who passed his, I can't remember what test it was he was taking, but he's back at work, and as it should be. Gary Muirhead, he got a day off from the question of the day today because I came up with my own. And it was literally triggered. I made the coffee this morning and thought, why do I do that? Why do I do that? Wife's cup on the left, mine on the right. They're different cups, different colours, different sizes, different cups of coffee. And yet hers is always on the left. I don't know why I do that, but it is a thing. So that video, it's the quality, the HD version will be available later. So let me bring up the video and see if we can make this work, shall we? I'm going to share my screen. That looks like that. Let me take Gary off of there. I'm going to blow this up. Let me see. If you can't hear this, I tell you what, I'm going to go back a stage. Let me go back a stage. Take that away. No, that should be okay. So let me blow this up to full size, like that, and I'll hit the play button, and hopefully this will play.
Actually going to manage to get the first ever walk and talk from an overseas location in this site. Having failed while I was in Bergamo, I'm now in Eskilstuna in Sweden. You can see, glorious day. In fact, this shirt is way too hot. I just spotted a statue just along the way featuring blacksmiths. Banging metal, basically. Perfectly in keeping with what I was planned for today's discussion. So, let's have a look around. It's the afternoon, the first day of my trip to Magni, to Eskilstuna in Sweden. Weather is unbelievably glorious. We left a fairly dull and drab UK a couple of hours ago, but we're now here in Sweden and it's glorious. I mean, it's actually hot. I'm going to spin the camera around in just a second, but I wanted to show you very quickly. You type into Google Eskilstuna, one of the first things that it tells you is that it is home to a place called the Munktel Museum. The Munktel Museum basically traces the history of Volvo construction equipment, right back even before it was called Volvo construction equipment. That's the destination we're at tonight. We're actually going there for dinner tonight. And if you allow me to spin around, I'll show you very quickly where it is. You can see the Munktel Museum over there in the background. That's where we're going this evening. I'll tell you very, very quickly. Those that were certain age will remember that Volvo used to be called Volvo BM. Before they were Volvo construction equipment, they were Volvo BM. The B stands for Bolender, which is a Swedish company. And the M stands for Munktel, the Munktel Museum. It's a famous man with the surname Munktel. I can't remember his Christian name. But yes, Munktel Museum, BM, so it's Volvo, Bolender, Munktel. That's the museum we're going to this evening. That's why we're here with Volvo. All makes sense. And just to make you even more jealous, so that over in the distance there is the Munktel Museum. I'm on a bridge. There's a slab-headed lunch down there. There's a little waterfall there. Just up here, you see that yellow building in the distance there. That's our hotel. So I think our journey to dinner this evening is going to be about 200 meters. Not exactly hard work, is it? I'm just going to show you Eskilstuna from the other side of the lake. Because like a lot of Scandinavia, certainly like a lot of Sweden, a lot of water. So, we just have a quick wander up here. I'll show you the other side of the lake. There you are. That is Eskilstuna in all its glory. So, I mentioned metal bashing. Have you seen the latest series of Clarkson's Farm? I think it's series 3. Not a farming person myself, but the series is very, very good. And there was a piece in there not so long ago that I was watching, really caught my eye, really caught my interest. And that bit was relating to the farming of pigs. If you've seen the episode, you'll know that Jeremy Clarkson and his better half had pigs. They were breeding pigs, but a lot of them died because they were crushed by the mother shortly after birth. So Jeremy Clarkson went away and devised a system. So there's a steel ring around the inside of the piglets, as he called them. And that was basically so that piglets could be up against the wall of the piglet and the mother couldn't crush them. Very simple, but very effective. Saved a lot of pig lives, as it turned out. All of which sent me thinking. First thing it made me think was this. Jeremy Clarkson, despite the fact that he owns a huge farm, he's not a farmer. He is basically a career-long motoring journalist. And it took a motoring journalist, a desperate motoring journalist, if you like, to come up with a suitable solution for something that has obviously been an issue within the pig farming community forever, yes? Now, the point that made me think about was that, obviously I'm not into agricultural and I'm not into farming or anything like that, but I'm into construction and demolition. So how many demolition companies, how many construction companies, how many individual operators have gone away, looked at a problem and come up with their own solution? Something that fixes a problem within their industry or within their particular application, but which could actually be applied to other people, other industries, potentially other applications as well. And then I thought a little bit further about the subject. Obviously, the major manufacturers spend lots and lots of money devising new and improved equipment, but they're very good at doing it. The way that it's done is a bit kind of ivory tower, in my mind. They develop a machine, they put it out with some customers, usually 10 customers that they've dealt with before, and they ask for their opinion. Now, there's a couple of things there. The first thing is, are those existing customers truly objective? Is a dyed-in-the-wool Caterpillar fan actually going to look at a new Caterpillar dozer, wheel loader, dump truck and give his honest opinion, or is he going to be more favourable? And there's another point to that. In order to put that machine out, obviously that machine needs to be built. So somebody has gone to the time and trouble, possibly invested hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions, to design, develop, and build a new machine. They put in place specialist tooling for it. They possibly put in a special part of their production line just to allow them to produce that machine. Now, initially, they might only produce 10, 12, send them out to customers and get their customer feedback. But is it not too late by that point? Is there not a feeling that having gone through all that time and expense that they're committed, are they really going to cease production of this fantastic new prototype they've got because some Ned in a quarry somewhere says, no, it doesn't suit me? Is Ned going to say that in the first place? I guess I've got a couple of final points as I finish walking around the lake here in Eskilstuna and seeing my hotel over in the distance there. And the first is this. How many great ideas are there out there among operators or individual companies? People have gone away, thought about a problem that is very specific to them, and they devised a solution that is, again, specific to them. But could that specific to them be expanded to other people? How many of those are out there? And I guess the final point is manufacturers doing field follows and that kind of thing. So they've built a machine, they've now put it out among some 10 customers. Would it not be a better idea to get those customers involved even earlier? And would it not be an even better idea still to get involved with some people, some customers, some end users, some operators who are not necessarily tame, that are not necessarily dyed-in-the-wool Caterpillar, Komatsu, Volvo, Liebherr fans, who would actually give you a proper objective view? Just a thought.
We got there in the end. Apologies for the sound on that. I can't control the sound in two places. I won't bore you with the actual details of it, but yeah, that was the point. And really, it was this guy that inspired that. That's something that's been lurking in the back of my brain. I know Jim has been doing some outreach to some manufacturers, basically offering his assistance on machine development. But I wonder how much of that has already. Well, first thing is, I wonder how much of that has already taken place. Jim is another good example for a completely different reason. Jim has modified machines. He's made his own attachments, and he's done so partly because he can, partly, I guess, out of necessity, but also because he has a proper, in-depth understanding of precisely the task he wants that attachment to do. So he has gone away and maybe modified something that already existed or made something specifically for that. How many of those are out there? How many of those actually exist right now, today, that could help 10, 20, 1,000 other companies, but which aren't even on a drawing board because somebody just came up with that idea and did it for themselves? Steve says, who are they talking to, I wonder, though? There is the problem. And trust me, I mean, the very fact that the major manufacturers Caterpillar refer to theirs as field follow. That's what they call the system. And the very fact that they do it at all, I think, is to their credit. Don't get me wrong. I do think it's to their credit because it ultimately should mean that by the time the general public get their hands on a machine, all of the rough edges should have been knocked off. It's a fully functioning machine. It may have been modified along the way. So what you're getting as a result of a field follow is a better thing. I think that's good. The problem you have is, in order for the field follow to work successfully, it has to happen in secret. There's no point in giving a top secret prototype machine to somebody that's going to blab about it to your closest competitor. So to overcome that, obviously you can have NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. You can do that, or you can back that NDA by giving that machine specifically to an existing and probably tame customer. Somebody that's used your equipment for 20, 30, 40 years, grandfather used to use them, father used to use them, you use them as well. And now Caterpillar comes along and says, here's a wheel loader. Stick this in your top secret Croatian quarry for the next 6 months while we knock the rough edges of it, and then we'll get your feedback and we'll make any final mods, which is fantastic. As I say, the very fact that they do that means hopefully you should end up with a machine that is better for it. But is that person that owns that Croatian quarry really going to go back to Caterpillar, with whom they have had this long-term and deep relationship, and say, shit, that is? I don't believe they are. I don't believe they are. And again, I do. There's a bit of me. I mentioned the notion of ivory tower in that film, and there is a degree of that. And I'll go back to Jim Turner. Jim is an advocate for machines that you can buy a base machine with no bells, no whistles, no tech. You could buy it at a cost, and if that's all you want, if you just want a jobbing machine, you don't want it to remember your birthday for you, you don't want it to brew your coffee of a morning, you just want something that will do a job of work and last a while, you should be able to buy that. If, however, you want all the bells and whistles, you should be able to add those bells and whistles on yourself. The problem we have now, or I say problem, but I believe it is a problem, is that manufacturers are now so enamored with tech, and also use tech as a key differentiator, that every machine now has to have a gizmo or a gadget or a type of software to make it stand out. I mentioned this in a thing I did a little while ago. You know, if Liebherr came out with a machine today that was on, they dispensed with tracks and they put it on hover pads. Within the next 2 years, and assuming that works and it turns out to be proven technology, the chances are within the next 2 years, Hitachi or Volvo or Caterpillar or Komatsu or somebody will come out with a machine that also has hover pads. But there's no point in being as good. So they would come out with something with hover pads and an infrared wing mirror. I don't even know what that does, but it would be, we raise you your hover pads and we see your hover pads and we raise you one infrared wing mirror. And then a couple of months later, somebody else will say, well, I see your hover pads and your infrared wing mirror, and we now raise you cryogenic operator cabin. And so it goes on. And all of it means that we stack tech on tech on tech on tech, when there is a part of the industry, Jim Turner being an example of it, out there, don't want that. I want a machine that will start reliably. It will last 10, 20 years, quite possibly. I can do most of the maintenance myself. That's all I want. You can produce as many gizmos and gadgets as you like. Just don't give them to me, and don't charge me for them. I think if the manufacturers were to look beyond their tame existing customers as part of their field follow programs, they would get that feedback. Yes, that's all well and good. We love your hover pads and we love your cryogenic operator's cab, but can I have mine without, please? Could I just have something that digs a hole and doesn't break down? Putting concept machines through proper work under proper abuse that they get to put through on a daily basis. Yeah. Now, in fairness, when we were speaking to the product specialist up at JCB about the new 370X excavator, and funnily enough, that did flash into my head, which is why I mentioned the Croatian quarry. They actually put one of those machines into a customer, an existing customer, but they deliberately chose a quarry in Croatia for several reasons. A, it was top secret. You know, it's not the sort of place that everybody's going to be strolling through, and the competitors aren't going to get to see it in advance. But also, it was operating at altitude. It had extremes of weather, so it had very, very hot, had very, very cold. That's what they're doing. And just going back to that extremes, one of the electric machines that Volvo were talking about over the past couple of days. They deliberately chose a customer in Saudi Arabia to test the machine because obviously there are concerns about the ability of an electric machine to operate at extreme temperatures. Well, they don't come much more extreme than Saudi Arabia, so they put one over there. Dan says, I'd love to work with manufacturers as things I have are similar to Jim. Yeah. Jim says for a company to be ahead of the game, they need to be the first to go back to low tech. The problem is, and I take what you're saying, the problem is we are in a race now, aren't we? We've got some tech. We've got more tech. We've got even more tech. We've got more tech on your tech. And that's the race that we're on. Whereas, is there scope out there? Is there scope out there for someone to say, okay, and bearing in mind, this is not a thing that they don't do. Most of the major manufacturers have different versions of their machines for different parts of the world. It used to be, for Europe, Australia, for most of Europe, should I say, Australia, America, New Zealand, places like that, it was all the bells and whistles, all the latest specifications, all of the latest emission regulations were met. Something for... and I'm going back a few years, but something for Africa or the Middle East was a different grade, had a bit less about it, and something specifically for Russia was different because, different regulations and everything else. It is something that the manufacturers do. And also bearing in mind, and I realise this is not easy. This is not easy. But bearing in mind the way that BMW sell their cars, you buy a model and then you basically build it. So you take I don't know BMW models at all, but you take the base model and you say, okay, I want those seats, I want that steering system, I want that reversing sensor, and you basically build the machine. Now, all of that is a pain in the arse, but it is possible. If a car manufacturer can do it, producing hundreds of thousands of cars, why can't an excavator manufacturer do it if they're producing tens of thousands? That would be my point. So yes, I'm glad we got the video to play because I do think there is a discussion to be had there. And again, if we can get Bill Law from Volvo or one of his colleagues, or possibly Bill and one of his colleagues, on to talk about all things Volvo related, particularly the new excavators, it's an opportunity to put those things to him. So I hope we can get a date in the diary to do that because Bill is fantastic value, smashing fella. He is very, very good value, knows his stuff, and very passionate about it as well. And just going to leave you with one final point. I will encourage you to go and read the article about the event that I've just attended because I've done it from the heart and everything else. But there's one other thing that Volvo seem to do perhaps better than all of their competitors. They have this slogan. I've mentioned this before, actually, now I think about it. They have this slogan, change starts here. And it's predominantly about their road to zero emissions and stuff. And they're very committed to it. But when you listen to some manufacturers, it does feel very much like, well, everybody else is talking about zero emissions, we'd best join in. With Volvo, you get the very, very distinct impression. I don't know whether it's a Volvo thing, whether it's a Swedish thing, but you get a very distinct impression that they don't just talk about it while they're at work. I honestly believe that a lot of the Volvo people will go home to houses lit with low energy light bulbs that they will cycle to and from work, partly because Sweden's lovely and it's a nice thing to do, but also because they're not saying they're committed to all things environmental. They are living and breathing the message they're delivering. And I have to say, I'm going to take my hat off to them. It was a great event. I'll be telling you more about it in the fullness of time. We will actually focus on the machines when we get around to that, I promise. We've got some fantastic footage. I may even bring you. It's a very, very tame drone crash, but if I can twist Fred's arm, I may even show you the drone crash because, I found it entertaining because he always has a go at me about my inability to fly a drone, and there he is almost colliding with a dump truck. So yes, that'll do us for today. I will be working in the background on this kind of new look, new feel for the show. I'll be telling you more about that as we do it. It won't be immediate, and we'll gradually sort of phase it in and what have you. But yeah, we're going to change things up because we are 4 and a bit years in. We're also 726 shows in. It's about time we had a refresh, I think, and I'm not going to wait until we've done 1,000 shows. Let's have a bit of a refresh on the hoof and see how it plans out. And if it doesn't work, we won't do it anymore. I'll be back with a bit more of a complete show tomorrow because this one, going to be honest, was put together in a bit of a hurry. But I will be back tomorrow with something a little more, I was going to say professional. You know me well enough to know that's not the case, but I will be back tomorrow. So hope to see you then. Until then, everybody, don't forget, that's up for grabs tomorrow as well. I'm going to do this one last time because I love the noise. Yeah, that's up for grabs tomorrow. I'm not going to tell you how to win it. You'll figure it out. I'll see you tomorrow. All the very best.